Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Imperfect Action Show. This is episode 51. We are on the path to episode 100. I think we're going to get there pretty fast. On today's episode, I got an amazing guest. She's a celebrity vocal health coach and expert. And on today's episode, she's going to talk to you guys on how to secure and save the bag, which is interesting because now that I've been thinking about it, I guess I use my voice a lot too. I guess I could probably use your services as well.
Absolutely. I mean,
So,
everybody can use my services. Everybody can
100%.
use it. Huh?
100%. No, I was saying 100%. Definitely.
Yeah, everybody can use my services. And if you have a voice, if you use it to monetize, to scale, if you're doing podcasts, YouTube channels, IG lives, masterminds, webinars, you need to make sure that you have somebody on your team. I call it money voice, your money voice team. You have to have somebody on your team to not only help you to secure the bag, to keep it, to leverage it, to scale it, but outside of here, this is one of the greatest assets you have, you know?
100%. And hopefully on today's episode, you're going to highlight that, let people know how valuable their voice is, how they should be protecting their voice. Because now that we're actually in the frequency of talking about this subject, it actually reminds me how seldom we actually think about how we need to maintain our voice box. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't remember a time when I was like, you know what? It's Tuesday. I got to make sure I take care of my voice today, right? So before we get into it, why don't you please let our viewers know a little bit about you and how we
Yeah.
move on to perfect action. It's live chat, so the community will ask you questions and things like that. And while you're doing that, while you're telling me a little bit about you, I'm gonna send a text to our community also, so the ones that don't know can just hop right on.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Ashaala Shanae. I am a celebrity vocal health expert and coach. I have worked with high performing speakers and singers, people that you followed, and my job is to make sure that they protect their vocal real estate. Why do I say it's vocal real estate? Because this is equity. This right here appreciates. And if you don't take care of it, it'll start to do the opposite, which is depreciate, right? And so, how do you know that this is your vocal real estate? It's because think about it. Everything that you do, especially for if you're an entrepreneur on here, a speaker on here, if you're a voiceover actor watching this, if you do commercials, jingles, right? If you do IG lives, Facebook lives, TikTok videos, right? I mean, just think about it. The human voice is used so much, but it's so overlooked and neglected. I've been doing this for about 20 years in this profession. I know I look 18, but I've been doing it for a long time. And I've seen a lot. I've worked with a lot of people. I've seen a lot of things. And so I specialize in four areas to really understanding how to maximize and optimize your best voice. And that is one, you have to have vocal appreciation. And so I concentrate a lot on vocal confidence because there's a lot of people that cannot listen to themselves talk back, right?
I've
Even
heard, I've heard,
podcasters.
I've heard that a lot. People say, I
Absolutely.
hate hearing my voice on this thing.
Believe it or not, and there's a high percentage of people that cannot stand the sound of their voice. And so I teach mindset or voice sets, mindset of a skill set first. Then I concentrate also on vocal health, anatomy, and physiology. And the reason is because there's a lot of they say out there, they say you should do this, drink a whole bunch of tea or gargle with this or do this and do that. And lots of times those things actually are counterproductive to proper voice maintenance and vocal health. And so I have to kind of correct those things or confirm them. And then I specialize in giving and equipping the speaker or the singer on here with proper tools to make sure that you don't lose your voice. So imagine if you were doing 100 episodes back to back to back to back, you will definitely lose your voice,
That's what we're
right?
doing. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Absolutely. You and I were at a mastermind recently where the actual host lost their voice, right? And so that within itself is money, not on the front end, not only just on the front end, but on the back end of a thing, right? And just talking about the amount of money. And here's the interesting thing, Brendan, no one can really afford your voice. they really can't afford your voice box. So really, it's invaluable. But what I teach people, especially speakers, and especially entrepreneurs that are using their voice to reach the masses and reach their audience, I teach them that, listen, no, no, no. As your vocal real estate, it's important that you understand the value that you put on it. You shouldn't be undervaluing yourself at all when it comes to your voice. And then last but not least, I show you how to take all of those things and put it into actual practicality, right? So lots of times I see podcasters like yourself or YouTubers like yourself, you all will go through a whole entire episode, 2 hours, you don't drink any water, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't stop to rest it. You don't use inflections. So I teach you how to take that and put it into actual practicality, right? So that you can actually manage your voice. So it's all about managing, maximizing, monetizing. And then, of course, I insure voices too. So that's a little bit about me.
All right, so before we actually talk more about the secrets of saving and securing a bag with the voice, there's so many things that you said there that we can easily unpack. But also, I'm very curious because you've been doing this such a long time. How did you find this niche as a place where you know what you felt I can plant my flag and I can really serve people at the highest level in this area, in this area?
Yeah, I found my niche because I had a problem and I needed it solved
Oh,
and I couldn't get it solved. So I became the first recipient of the problem that I had. So
yeah.
yeah, that's the truth. I literally graduated from college. I couldn't get a job at the time. I started doing substitute teaching. And if anybody's out there as an educator out there, whether you're in the collegiate or the high school or the middle school or elementary school level, it's a lot on the voice to be an educator. And so I ended up developing vocal nodules, which are two callus like bumps that grow on both sides of the folds
I
that
heard
cause
about
your voice to sound raspy and rough and stuff like that. And so I remember I was a part-time teacher, substitute teacher. I got nodules. I couldn't speak for about 6 to 8 weeks. I went into a state of depression. I
oh,
went to the ear, nose, and throat doctor and I was like, yo, what do I do? And then at that time, too, I had just gotten an actual big tour with an artist off of Universal Music, too. So I didn't want to let the record label know that I had nodules, right? Went to the ear, nose, and throat doctor. They're like, well, you're going to have to spend this amount of money to get these removed. I didn't have any insurance. It was a lot. So I took my degrees. I took what I knew. I went back and I found out holistic treatments and ways, proper practices. I had to eliminate the bad habits and the things that I was doing. And I was able to heal my own self from vocal nodules holistically, right?
how long did that take to do it?
So it's a process. It's a process. It's not an overnight thing. You have to literally eliminate the bad habits and put forth the new habits and master the new habits. So it took me about roughly 4 to 6 months to really get myself back to optimal health. And the only reason why I say that is because you have to do a combination of things if you want to do it holistically. Now, some people go and they get quick fixes, right? And this is the reason why I teach preventative measures early on, because lots of times people wait until they have the vocal problem and then try to get a quick fix. But if you don't change the habit, especially like for like speakers, right? There's a lot of speakers, podcasters, and stuff like that that smoke, right?
Yeah.
That drink lots of alcohol, right? A lot of them actually, deal with allergies and sinus. They're taking a whole bunch of medication, right? A lot of steroids, things like that. All those things you may think are quick fixes, but they're not. You see what I'm saying? And so people wait until the last minute when their voice is gone. And this is the reason why when someone works with me, especially if they're doing any kind of group coaching with me, or any kind of a one-to-one. Normally, I don't take one-to-ones unless like it's a really high level, high performing speaker singer, but I do offer group coaching with my team and I. And normally when we do that, Brendan, we literally give 3 months of just anatomy, health, technique building before we do that. And the reason why is because people think that it's just an overnight thing. No, if you do the work and you put it in, it'll help you over the long run. And that's the truth about that. So it took me about probably 4 months, I would say, to really start to see the results, because I had to master practicing new adaptive behaviors and eliminating the things that I was doing before, like not speaking correctly, yelling to the kids all the time, sit down, singing incorrectly, not drinking enough water, all of the things that can literally cause your voice to start to go the opposite way and depreciate.
So what are some of the most common things, or what is the most common thing that not only people that actually use their voice as a profession, but like normal everyday people. Well, what are some of the most common things that we suffer from as far as the
Yeah.
voice? Just from not just from negligence, right? Maybe just not understanding.
Yeah, I think especially for people that are hosts on here and stuff like that, hoarseness, that's very common. And hoarseness, the actual fancy word for hoarseness or the medical treatment is called dysphonia, dysphonia. So hoarseness is where you have raspiness of the voice, roughness of the voice, or you just start to lose your voice, not the total voice, but it just starts to sound rough. And Brandon, here's the truth: people don't have to see your face to know the imprint of your voice. Your voice within itself is an NFT. It's a
100%.
brand. And I always want people to think
100%.
about vocal NFTs.
Yeah.
You see how like monkeys, they kind of look all the same, the NFTs, but what makes them unique is the fact that they have a particular configuration that makes them what it is.
Yep.
That's the same thing with our voices. You have an imprint on your voice, the way in which you resonate, that no one else has. And so at the end of the day, one of the things that I see is a lot of people ignore hoarseness. Right. So don't ever neglect hoarseness ever again, because you want to, just like how you're into NFTs and stuff like that, you got to see your voice as one of those. That's how valuable it is. Right. So hoarseness is one of them. Nodules is another. And nodules is what I said, it's bumps that literally form on the folds. And here's the interesting thing: hoarseness is an indicator, all right, that there's something going on. So a lot of people ignore it, but you don't want to do that. Another thing that happens too is what we call speakers end up having. And muscle tension dysphonia comes as a result of stress, too much stress, not getting enough sleep, all right, dealing with internal emotional stressors like anger, rage, resentment, guilt, surprise, like even those kind of things, anxiety, ooh, which is big for entrepreneurs, like we
Yeah.
deal with anxiety all the time, depression. What that normally does is, because the voice box is so sensitive to the body and the soul, the emotions, what happens is that the actual voice box starts to tense. And when the muscles get really tense, the vocal cords can't stretch. So when you're speaking and stuff like that, and you're like, man, something's going on, it's really because it's the tightening of the voice. And so if there's anybody watching us or listening to this, if you start to feel a ring around your throat, or a lump, or you're having problems breathing or swallowing, you may be dealing with muscle tension dysphonia, which is hoarseness due to muscle tension. Another one that deals with hoarseness is people that deal with acid reflux. A
Yeah.
lot of us do.
I heard you. I heard you talking about a little bit about that on Social Proof.
Oh yeah, acid reflux is huge. That's one of the biggest things. Acid reflux, allergies, and sinus are some of the three biggest ones outside of alcohol and drug use. And that is because we have to watch what we eat, right? We have to watch our acid levels and our pH levels in our body. We have to make sure that we're not eating late at night or binging on food. We have to make sure our stress levels stay down, because stress spikes our acid levels. We have to make sure that if we do eat late, if something happens, that you literally sit up, because what happens is that that acid comes up to your esophagus and it goes right into your voice box. And so when you wake up and be like, yo, something's not right, right? It's because literally the acid has burnt away at the folds. So there's a lot of different things that can happen with speakers and high performing, like entrepreneurs that are using their voice in a lot of ways to reach their audience. These are some of the common things that I see that a lot of speakers are dealing with.
All right, guys. So look, she gave us a lot of information right there. So it doesn't matter whether you're using your voice to monetize or if you're using your voice just to yell at the kids. You got to make sure that your voice maintenance is healthy. So what are some of the things that because obviously I do want to talk about how we're going to secure the bag with the voice and stuff like that. But where the conversation is going, you kind of got me thinking. What are some of the things that people should avoid that they probably just do every single day, right? Like things that they maybe consume, stuff like that. And then what are some of the ways that they can actually start to move a little bit towards having a healthier voice?
Absolutely. And believe it or not, that's a really great question. And it actually will require a simple answer, but yet most people won't do it. just because we're creatures of bad habit. But couple things: avoid smoking, right? And it's not just cigarettes and nicotine. Even when it comes to like vaping, hookah, marijuana consumption, and in the way of a vapor, right? I know some people may do like gummies and stuff like that. That's fine. But when you are inhaling anything, it directly goes into the voice and it starts to dry out the folds. So,
Yeah.
one of the common habits that we do is that smoking and that vaping. And then not only that, what we're finding is a lot of vapes even contain like, chemicals and toxins
Yeah.
and stuff like
Hmm.
that we have to be very careful. Believe it or not, a lot of people are ended up damaging their voice, their speaking voice from that. Another one too is the alcohol consumption. We got to lessen it because alcohol is not only dehydrating, but it's acidic. So what happens if you consume too much alcohol too fast all the time? You partying every week, celebrating the bag every week, but it's with especially when it comes to like the brown liquor and stuff like that. You got to be careful because that stuff will start to burn away at your stomach, your throat, and everything like that. Um, Another thing that we need to avoid is high acid foods. So things like most citrus fruits or things like white bread, white rice, white processed foods, a lot of like high meats like canned meats and
Yeah.
processed meats and stuff like that. All those things we need to be very mindful of. We need to get a lot more rest. So we have to avoid staying up late. Now I understand because I said this on social proof because Shan's team no sleep. And I'm saying, but that is so conducive to the voice. We have to get the body needs at least 7 hours and 13 minutes of sleep as an adult. All right, for you to get the proper sleep that you need, and the voice will definitely suffer if you don't. Another thing to avoid is high mucus enhancing foods. All right, so not just with acid, but also making sure that there's something called histamine that rises in our bodies. And I think everybody needs to hear this, okay? A lot of you are dealing with allergy and sinus issues as speakers and people on here. And the reason is because of what you're putting into your body. It's not just dairy, okay, guys? It's not just dairy. It's also things like fatty meats, white processed foods, soy, corn, sugary foods, right? Fried foods. All those things start to spike mucus in the body. We have good mucus in our body, but there's something where mucus enhances in the body and it causes histamine to rise. Histamine is what leads to infection and inflammation. So when we're having that postnasal drip or we're constantly dealing with mucus all the time, it's because of putting too much mucus in the body through foods, right? Another thing to avoid, and we have to be very mindful, is we got to uptake our water intake. We don't drink enough water. And like I was saying, I see pastors, podcasters, I see commentators never have a sip of water next to them. And when you're dealing with water, you want to make sure that you're doing room temperature water. Stay away from cold waters. Avoid that. And the reason is because it's not the water doesn't touch your vocal cords. Okay, if I had to do an anatomy class, it doesn't touch your vocal cords. Teas, throat sprays, lozenges, they don't touch the vocal cords at all. So sorry to burst your bubble on that, but it doesn't. So you got to hydrate your body, half your body weight in fluid ounces, or a minimum of 2 to 3 liters a day, y'all. Listen to what I'm saying. In order for your body to naturally produce watery mucus so that your vocal cords can stay lubricated. So if you're going throughout the week and you're barely drinking water, and then you have a show, or you got to do a podcast, or you got to do an interview, or you got to do a presentation or something like that, and then you sipping that water because you think it's doing something to your folds, it's doing nothing. It's just hydrating your throat. That's all it's doing. It's not touching your cords. So you got to drink more water and avoid not taking in water. You got to watch the caffeine. A lot of people are coffee drinkers, right? But that caffeine is not only acidic, but it's dehydrating at the same time. All right. And then,
Yeah. Hold up, Ashayla, hold up.
yeah, I know.
What can we eat and drink? Because we can't eat and drink nothing according to this list. You know what I'm saying?
No, 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 no. Moderation is key. But let me tell you something. You could have 2 to 3 bottles of water and 1 cup of coffee, and that 1 cup of coffee will still do a lot more than those 3 bottles of water.
Yeah,
You see what
yeah.
I'm saying? And so at the end of the day, moderation is key, right? But I know people, they cannot go without coffee. Like they have to drink coffee every day. And then
Yeah.
they're wondering why they're dealing with acid reflux or why they're dealing with dehydration, right? And how you know if you're dealing with dehydration, if you keep going scratching the back of the throat, that's dehydration. Or like if you're constantly clearing your throat all the time. That's dehydration, right? And so there are things you can eat, Brendan. Okay, so for example, things like
That, first of all, I'm gonna need that what you can eat to maintain your voice downloadable cheat sheet.
yes, and I have one, so I'll definitely make sure
Need
that
that.
you get access to that. I do have a cheat sheet in regards to the foods, especially low acid foods, mucus eliminating foods. I definitely have that. But there are lots of foods you can eat, right? And things you can drink. So, for example, if you're going to drink certain things, do more of like coconut water, alkali water. Instead of white wine, do red wine. All right. I would also say, eliminate the sports drinks because they're very high in acid. So you want to be very mindful of that. Do more like almond milk, oat milk, rice milk, like healthy things, veggies, lots of veggies, fish, lamb, things like that. So there are foods out there that you could definitely do. But lots of times, like I said, we're creatures of habit. We go to salty, fatty, sugary. That's what we
Yeah.
do, you know?
All right,
So,
we are approaching up on the time. It's going pretty fast. I'm like, we can talk about this. I mean, I might have to break you over. This episode need to keep going. Um, but let's get down to it, right? So how
yeah.
are you able to secure the bag and save this thing?
Yeah.
Really have and then perform at a high level because I like Tuesdays is like my tough days, right? Because I got the podcast, and then I got another podcast I do with a friend, and then I'm coaching for like 2 hours after that, and it's like literally back to back to back to back to back. I'm like, this is going on for at least 4 or 5 hours. So let's talk about that. Let's get down to the main topic. How are we able to do that?
Yeah. Let's math it. I always talk about let's math
Yeah.
it, right? So let me ask you a question. Have
And
you
then we
done
also got a couple of. I just noticed we got a couple of questions for the community too.
oh,
So
cool. So let's math it really quickly. So one of the things I always ask people is, do you have voice insurance? And they've never heard that before. So I'm gonna ask you, Brendan Boyd, do you have voice insurance?
no, but after this episode,
And the reason why I say that is because think about it. J Lo, she insured her butt. Tina Turner, she insured her legs.
yeah.
Sheer, she insured certain body parts. Football players, basketball players, they insure certain body parts. How come you, as a vocal athlete, because you are a vocal athlete, you use this every day? It's
Oh,
your bread and
don't tell
butter
me that.
all
Don't
the
tell me
time.
that. I'm about to go crazy.
You're a vocal athlete,
Yeah.
right? How come you don't have any insurance on your voice? And so my question to you is, I'm pretty sure I see your thing at the back there, 1 million a year, 83 a month, 83 a month, 19 a week, But my question to you is, let's say you were going to do the Imperfect Action Show conference or mastermind 1-day event, right? Let's just math it. How many people would you expect to come to your 1-day event? Really quickly.
Let's say 1,000.
1,000. What will be the ticket to come in?
Let's say about 500.
500. So 500 times 1,000 is what?
A lot of money.
Yeah. So let's do the math really quickly, right?
Real quick.
Yeah.
500,000, 550,000.
Yeah. So if you have 1,000 now, so
500,000. I know I missed a zero. 500,000.
500,000. All right. So on the front end, listen to this. On the front end, all right, $500,000 on the front end. But we know, right? We know this. Amateurs make money on the front end. Experts make money on the back end, right? So you thinking about, okay, if I'm going to do that on the front end, that's 500. That's just 500. That's $500,000 right there. And then on the back end, you probably want to do a mentorship or something like that. What do you have on the back end? Just if you don't mind.
Yeah, we'll probably do the annual at this point. So probably
Annual. And what's normally 30, right?
Yeah.
So imagine if you were to convert from those 1,000 people, let's say you were to convert 20% of that, right? So 20% of 1,000, that's what 200 people, right? To a 30K, right? How much money is that?
You got 6 M's right there.
Okay. Now add that to the front end. How much money is that altogether?
6,500,000.
All right. So imagine you woke up, you were in your hotel room, you woke up, there was mold in your hotel. You didn't realize it until you woke up and you no longer have a voice. And you got to go up and show up with no voice in front of 1,000 people. That's $6.5 million on the line.
Crazy. So how does this insurance kick in?
Exactly my point. Because what insurance says is what we're going to do is the value of the amount of money you will not only earn, but we calculate the value of the money that you would actually potentially lose should something happen to your voice. It's not just about what to eat and drink on here. Listen to me. You, Brendan, could be on your way to the event and get into an accident.
That's true. That's true.
You see what I'm saying?
Accidents do happen.
Accidents do happen. And let's say you get in an accident and you hit your throat on the steering wheel and all of a sudden it crushes your windpipe. What you gonna do? You can't do this show no more. You're gonna have to rerun episodes and repurpose and repackage. You see what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So what's gonna happen to that? And people don't think about that. So this is where voice insurance comes in to say, hey, listen, we're going to calculate what is the potential of the money you earn, but also the potential of the money you can possibly lose in the event that something happens to where your voice goes, that you would have a cushion, a contingency plan to help you with that.
Okay, all right. So we're definitely getting voice insurance. How much does voice insurance cost? But before you answer that question, let's get into some questions. Let's get into the questions from the audience. So Ty asks, is there such thing as too much alkaline water?
Well, there is such thing, Ty, as being too alkali. Let's just put it there. All right. The body needs to be neutral. Okay. So your blood pH should be between a 7.4 and an 8. Right. Your urine pH, Ty, should be between a 6.8 and an 8, right? On the pH scale. So 7 and under is acid, 7 is neutral, and then 7.1 and up is alkali. When you start going past the 8, you're too alkali, and you could end up getting something called alkali reflux, all right, which is more bile. And you can also get vocal problems as a result of that. I had a client who was a nurse who was too alkali, and as a result of that, she still ended up having vocal issues as a result of it. So it's not necessarily if it's too much alkali water, there is something as too much alkali in the body. So you got to balance it. All right.
All right. So we got another question. How do you get rid of acid reflux or heartburn naturally?
Absolutely. So a couple things that you want to do is eliminate wearing tight clothing immediately. All right, because tight clothing contributes to that. You want to make sure that you do watch the high acid intake foods. You want to make sure that you don't eat too late at night. Don't binge too much. Keep your stress levels down. And then I said this on the podcast, and I want to correct this. When you are sleeping, you want to make sure that you eliminate sleeping on the right side. Okay. Why? Because the stomach is actually kind of like on the opening, like upside down. And so when you're sleeping on the right side, that acid comes up at night. And because your swallowing reflexes aren't doing what it's supposed to do, it actually goes right in and irritate that voice box area. So you want to make sure that you can eliminate that. Watch your caffeine, watch your sodas, watch your alcohol consumption. You want to make sure that you are definitely eating more alkali based foods. All right. Low acid foods. All right. And keeping those stress levels down.
All right. Last question we have is how do you get rid of sinus infections naturally?
So with sinusitis, naturally, lots of times I would say up your antihistamine foods and your anti-inflammatory foods. So things like ginger, garlic, turmeric, red onions, if you really want to be a G, right, with it. Like foods that actually do not enhance too much histamine in the body. And these are the natural foods that have been given to us that we need to ingest more, which are definitely the garlics and the gingers and the onions and the dark green leafies, right? That's definitely, and what you can do is boil it. So what you could do is get a clove of garlic, cut it up, put it in a pot, add some ginger root, add some turmeric, some mint leaves in there. If you want to really be a G, get some cloves, add like some cooking cloves in there as well, and some sage leaves.
Yep.
Boil it up, let it steep, and then add a little bit of raw honey for taste and ingest it every day and every night. It's going to really, really take that out. Another thing you can do.
This whole episode back.
Another thing you can do is make sure that you actually drink lots of fluid, because it actually loosens up the mucus so that it can pass through. But one of the things that the person can do is definitely steam. So you can either steam in the shower, or you can actually get a steamer. It loosens up the sinus and flushes it out. For a lot of people that deal with allergens, especially, you want to do a neti pot. That works as well too.
Okay, yeah.
Get rid of any allergens, because sinus and allergies kind of go hand in hand. But you also got to, with sinus, you got to definitely watch your mucal intake. Cover yourself, cover your head, cover your portals, your nose, your mouth. These are all porters. I see a lot of people go out and they only cover their neck, but your entry points are right here. The ears, the nose, and the throat are all connected. So these are some things that you can do to kind of watch the sinus, and be careful of the decongestants like the Flonase, the Mucinex, the Claritins, all those things. They are decongestants, but they're dehydrating. So they eliminate good mucus as well. So you want to be very mindful of that.
Listen,
Okay.
I think we should change the episode to $1 billion voice talk. This was amazing.
Come on.
This is amazing. All right, guys. So look, we're pretty much at the hour. If you guys have any other questions, make sure you drop them below so we can get these last questions in. So Ashaalas, what do you have going on? How can they tap in with you? Programs, books,
Yeah.
coaching. Let them know. Let them know how they can, get connected with you and everything that you have going on.
Absolutely. So Ashaala Shanae, my handle is there on the actual name right there at ASHAALASHANAE. Listen, I have for all of you on here, I have access to an ebook right now that you can tap into immediately. Just go to www.vocalblueprint.com. Vocalblueprint.com and get access to that ebook right away. All right. Also, you can follow me on all social media platforms at Ashaala Shanae. If you're interested in getting any kind of coaching, you definitely can hit the link on my social media, or you can just go to voicemastersacademy.com. voicemastersacademy.com. All right. So for the ebook, vocalblueprint.com, www.vocalblueprint. You got to put the www in the front, okay? www.vocalblueprint.com. And if you want to get access to me and become vocally mentored by myself and my team, www.voicemastersacademy.com.
Well,
Okay.
I want to thank you so much. I've learned so much, and I always tell people if I can actually host and take notes, you guys have no excuse. If you missed anything, make sure you hit the replay immediately. Will be available right on YouTube. I will also have Ashaala's information located in the caption below. I want to thank you for your time on the Imperfect Action Show. It's been amazing, and I look forward to reserving time again for you in the future to come back on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow, episode 52, as we move forward to our quest to get 100 episodes down, which obviously is going to come really quick. Make sure you guys follow Ashaala at Ashaala Shanae on Instagram and all social media platforms. We will see you guys tomorrow. This has been the Imperfect Action Show.